I have always loved science fiction films, even the bad ones, space films especially. Star Wars and films like Alien inspired a whole string of space movies. Those films were an inspiration to Roger Corman. Corman started a new production company called New World Pictures. They would produce the 1980 science fiction space film called Battle Beyond the Stars. The film would be Corman's most expensive feature, costing an estimated budget of $2 million. Most of the money for this production was spent on the salaries of the actors, including George Peppard and Robert Vaughn, who both demanded rather large salaries. Corman was always known for his cost-saving techniques, recycling sets, models and scenes from his films. The film was made at Roger Corman's own studio at the renowned Lumberyard facility in Venice, California. He hired screenwriter John Sayles, who had already written the Corman production of The Lady in Red and the Joe Dante film Piranha. Both of these films were a financial and critical success. Sayles' script was originally much longer, but was cut down severely before and during shooting in order to save money. Because of this, some of the characters are not fleshed out as much as they could be. For Battle Beyond the Stars, he had to find the right director. At some point, Corman was considering hiring Ozploitation director Richard Franklin, who would go on to direct the cult horror Patrick and the sequel to Psycho, Psycho 2. Corman instead hired Jimmy T. Murakami, who was a veteran animator. Murakami had recently been an uncredited co-director on Corman's horror film, Humanoids from the Deep.
But I've heard you've done some directing on this picture, is that true?
Well, primarily the special effects. Jimmy Murakami was the director of the live action, and we've started our own special effects studio, and this has become my great toy.
It was decided that Battle Beyond the Stars would be a space science fiction remake of the classic Japanese film Seven Samurai, which was directed by Akira Kurosawa. Seven Samurai was remade in 1960 as a western titled The Magnificent Seven. Battle Beyond the Stars was described as The Magnificent Seven in outer space. The film would also have an obvious Star Wars influence, especially in the lead character, Shad, played by actor Richard Thomas, who is a farm boy like Luke Skywalker, who becomes the hero as he gets involved in the battle against the evil forces of Sador. It is interesting to note that the creator of Star Wars, George Lucas, was influenced greatly by Akira Kurosawa's samurai films in the creation and writing of Star Wars. Although Battle Beyond the Stars can be seen as inspired and influenced by Star Wars, I really don't think it's anything like Star Wars. It just happens to be in outer space. The story is straightforward and follows the basic plot of Kurosawa's Seven Samurai and the Western remake The Magnificent Seven. Producer Gawain Hurd, who at the time was working for Roger Corman, recommended a young unknown filmmaker by the name of James Cameron to Corman. He was very impressed with Cameron after he saw his short film Xenogenesis. Cameron was originally hired as head model maker for Battle Beyond the Stars, but after the art director was fired, he was put in charge of special effects and art direction, or as Cameron put it, production design and art direction.
It's a very nice looking film. Who did the art direction on it?
Jim Cameron was the art director, and Danielle Lecombe was the cameraman.
James Cameron initially worked on camera rigging. He started working on special effects and production design of the interior sets. With a low budget, he designed the spaceship's corridors out of spray-painted McDonald's containers. The station was made from a plastic salvaged from a garbage dumpster. Cameron paid great attention to detail. He hardly slept while working on the film. The hard work paid off. Battle Beyond the Stars raised the bar for special effects model work, and Cameron's work would ultimately open the door for Cameron to be one of the most influential directors of our generation, starting with his breakthrough hit in 1984, The Terminator. Alan Howarth created the different sound effects for each of the 7 spaceships and reused several synth effects which he had created for Star Trek the Motion Picture in 1979. David Udall was the production sound mixer. He was also responsible for special effects. Udall was a regular contract worker on Corman's films. He later remarked that each of the 7 spaceships had its own sound. Gelt's ship was based on the recording of a dragster. The spaceship used in Battle Beyond the Stars was reused for other science fiction films including Space Raiders, and the footage was also reused for the Laserdisc game Astron Belt. The planet of Akira and its people, the Akira, a peaceful alien race, was named in honor of director Akira Kurosawa. There was a number of well-known character actors in the film, including Robert Vaughn as Gelt. Vaughn plays pretty much the same character Lee that he played in The Magnificent Seven in 1960. Some of the dialogue is even taken right out of The Magnificent Seven. George Peppard plays the likable character of the cowboy, who is the only character from Earth. He also has many great one-liners in this film. Actor Richard Thomas plays the young farmer Shad. He is known mainly for his role as John Boy Walton in the long-running series The Waltons. John Saxon plays the main villain Sador, the leader of the evil Maumori Raiders. He keeps himself alive using transplants to renew his body.
I think I thought it was kind of amusing and funny, you know? And that's actually one of the scenes that I played in the film. I would sort of be somebody who had lost his arm and then it was putting it back in place.
There are a number of notable actors like Sam Jaffe and Jeff Corey as Zed. Jeff Corey is known for playing in a number of TV and film roles. Most notably, he was in the original Star Trek episode titled The Cloud Minders. Sybil Danning plays Saint Exman, a Valkyrie warrior who is looking to prove herself in battle. According to actor Richard Thomas, the wardrobe department had a difficult time keeping the top of Danning's costume on and had to use band-aids to keep her top from slipping off. Marta Kristen, famous for starring in the hit 60s show Lost in Space, as Judy, plays the small role of Lux, an Akira who has a relationship with the character Cowboy. A young composer, James Horner, was hired to compose the score of Battle Beyond the Stars. This was his second film score. His first was the other Corman-produced film, Humanoids from the Deep. His score for Battle Beyond the Stars was later recycled in a number of other films for Corman, including Space Raiders and the film Raptor. It would later be lifted again for another film, Wizards of the Lost Kingdom, in 1985. Battle Beyond the Stars was Horner's breakthrough score, propelling him to success in films like Brainstorm, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and Titanic. Horner would go on to work with future director, production designer James Cameron on the scores for Aliens and Titanic. The working title for Battle Beyond the Stars was originally going to be Battle Amongst the Stars. Battle Beyond the Stars was released in cinemas on September the 8th, 1980. Corman made most of his money from the film by selling foreign distribution to Orion Pictures for $2.5 million. He also resold cable rights to HBO for $750,000. The film received mixed reviews from critics for its style, which critics presumed fed off the success of Star Wars. Another reviewer called the film a cheesy but endearing Star Wars clone that is entertaining and great fun to watch. Roger Corman takes on Star Wars in this immensely fun, laser-happy ripoff set in a galaxy not all that far, far away. At the time of the film's release, The Empire Strikes Back, Flash Gordon, and Galaxina were released. In 2010, there was a prequel comic book released. It was set 30 years before the film. It was a 4-part miniseries called Battle Amongst the Stars, and tells the story of how Zed, the old man played by Jeff Corey, began his adventures from the planet Akira with the ship Nell. Battle Beyond the Stars was an exciting, funny and adventurous film with great performances by the actors. Although Corman was inspired to make this film after the success of Star Wars, the film bears little resemblance to Star Wars, except for maybe the main character, Shad, who could be seen as a carbon copy of Luke Skywalker. The film modelled itself more from the films Seven Samurai and The Magnificent Seven. They just set it in space. The film, since its release, has had its cult following, This is partly because of its clever and creative special effects and production design, which were created by James Cameron on a very low budget. Battle Beyond the Stars propelled his career. Roger Corman has been responsible for propelling many great talents. We have a lot to be grateful for. My name's Jonathan, thanks for watching, and remember to please subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to show your support on Patreon, click on the link below.